Audio Unleashed.
We're ready to start a podcast, and the podcast is called Audio
Unleashed.
And we are here, if you haven't heard us before, and you probably have, but if you haven't, or if you've forgotten what we're all about, we are here to fearlessly report on the most encouraging and disturbing trends in audio. Mostly disturbing.
Yeah. I have to admit, one of the encouraging trends kind of disturbs me a little bit, man, because it sort of shakes my worldview, but we'll get there eventually. What do you want to talk about first this week, though, buddy?
Well, the first thing is disturbing. Depending on who you are and what your worldview is. It's from an article in Music Business Worldwide, which I found out about because I listened to the Your Morning Coffee podcast, which is the best podcast about the music industry and the business side of the music industry. Anyway, Music Business Worldwide, 50,000 AI tracks flood Deezer daily. And that's just a snippet of the headline, which is a really long headline. But it was shocking to me when I heard about this in the podcast and I went and read about it. It was shocking to me how quickly AI is taking over music streaming. I mean, just staggering. And so Deezer apparently has a really good AI detector they've developed. And, Deezer being a streaming service, not one of the majors, but, it's there. And they have found that right now, 34% of the tracks they're getting, so, a third of the tracks they're getting are AI generated. And apparently 70% of the plays on these are fraudulent. In other words, they're coming from a what do they call them? A spin farm or something?
Yeah, stream farm, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So this is, there's just so much data in here we're going to share and so many trends to talk about, and we're going to look at it from the standpoint of not only just music, but also the standpoint of, what does it mean for audiophiles in terms of what should your emphasis be in going forward into your discovery and enjoyment of music?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's very fair. And we haven't even touched on the most disturbing statistic from this article for me, but we'll get there.
Okay,
but I want to talk about what we've got coming up after that now. So we, look, you guys, our listeners, you spoke, we listened. You want more interviews? You want more guests? We got them. But you be careful what you ask for because we're just going to bring our friends on. So this week, we're bringing Geoffrey Morrison, our dear friend for decades, on to talk about an article that he wrote for SoundStage Solo. The headline is Asla Sedna Earfit Mithril and Flair Magic Tips Aftermarket Ear Tips. And he's talking about two different brands of aftermarket ear tips here, not cheap ear tips. And these are designed to replace the tips that come with your earbuds or earphones, whatever you want to call them. One of them, $40 for a set of three. The other one, $90 for a set of three.
For three different sizes, yeah.
Yeah. So these are, so you really only get to use one of them because it's not like you're going to need all three.
Yeah.
Unless you got, unless you're like a family of bears, then you might use all three. Yeah.
Maybe you are.
So anyway, do these things improve the sound quality of the headphones? Well, there's one surefire way to find out. You can measure them. And I think, let's see. Mr. Brent Butterworth helped Jeff out with some measurements on this article too. So we've got data, man.
Oh, instant clown show. As someone said about my measurements in sound and vision about 15 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, maybe he had a point. So our third segment is going to be from sadly, someone who's not a friend of the pod, but I wish was, Davey 504, who's famous as the internet's most famous bass player.
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy's got to be making a fortune on his channel. He does a really cool channel about bass playing, but it's very humorous. It's not really that informative about bass playing.
Yeah.
It's really not at all informative about bass playing, but it's a kick to watch. But I wanted to cover this because he did product testing in a way that the audio industry, those who cover the audio industry ought to do product testing. So he tested it's the article or the YouTube thing is called "I bought the most expensive guitar picks on the internet." And so he bought it. There's all these, if you're a guitar player, you can get, standard generic picks for, I don't know, 10 for $5 or even less.
Yeah.
And it's inconsequential spend. And but you can also go get all these really expensive ones. And of course, they claim that you will play, I don't know, faster, or you will sound clearer, or whatever. And so he bought a whole bunch of these, and he tests them, and he does like live testing of it. And then he also does a, quick comparison. And the results were actually, I was surprised. I was really surprised at the results.
I was too.
Yeah. So we're gonna look at what he did and talk about how maybe some of this could apply to the audio industry. And then for our Patreon subscribers, what are we going to do?
So in the past, we have covered this video series from Tom Martin of The Absolute Sound. And I believe the last time we talked about one of these videos, I rather uncharitably compared it to a hostage video. This is a different hostage video today, although it's this time he's talking about per listen audio. This is not a review. He's basically just going through like what makes this brand different. And in a way, this kind of reads like a video version of an advertorial, I would say. But I think we're going to surprise a lot of people with this, because I agree with a lot of what Tom says here. And I'm looking at our idea board here, and so do you. I think we've both got nits to pick, but there's a problem. There's a giant problem with this, which we will discuss. Yes, we will.
Which is it's like, we agree with with so much of what he's saying, but there's a giant, colossal problem with. Well, we'll just get into that. You'll have to subscribe to Patreon to find out what it is.
Give us your $3.
Come on.
Anyway, before we get to that, let's dive into Deezer, buddy, because this is disturbing. Like, this article literally was. I mean, I don't mean to be dramatic or hyperbolic, although I'm often accused of both. But this article really disturbed me, man.
Yeah, me too.
And one of the most disturbing things is literally in the headline. So I guess you couldn't call it a spoiler, but yeah, we talked a little in the intro about how much of the music that is being submitted to Deezer is AI generated. But here's the biggest takeaway for me. The survey's most striking finding: 97% of respondents couldn't distinguish between fully AI generated tracks and human made music in a blind listening test. And more than half, 52%, felt uncomfortable with their inability to tell the difference. I wonder if you and I would be in the 3% who could distinguish it. Although my problem is, as I've said many, many times before, I think the labels have been preparing us for this moment for a long time by making music more generic, less distinctive, more AI-like. And so I honestly think it's more this is an indictment of the sort of stagnant nature of pop music more than it is. I mean, could you tell the difference between an AI generated Led Zeppelin clone and Led Zeppelin? Even if you'd never heard Led Zeppelin, I think you could. But I think modern pop music is so AI-like, that's part of why people just can't tell the difference.
Well, yeah. I mean, so much of the pop music that's out there, and let's face it, the country music and the rock music and everything, it's all gridded, which means you put it into whatever your digital audio workstation is, and you adjust it to where every beat is right on, even if you recorded it with a real drummer, which maybe you did, maybe you didn't. You probably use samples as opposed to real instruments. You with so many of these tunes nowadays, real instruments are not used, and there's not much human element. Did you listen to on the podcast they were talking about Rick Beato on his music podcast was talking about this new this new AI thing called Breaking Rust.
Yeah, so I didn't listen to Your Morning Coffee episode, but I did listen to the Rick Beato thing independently.
Okay, yeah. And that to me sounded, it's like just real dumb country. Like, I got mud on my boots and I don't care what anybody thinks about that and blah, 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 blah. Just mining the tropes that have played out in country music forever. Like, I wear a hat and, to hell with you if you don't like it. But it's like, nobody gives a damn, Bubba. And wear your hat. Nobody cares. Stop playing the victim. So anyway, it's just more of that crap. And that I listened to that and I'm kind of like, all right, I think I would have known that was AI. I'm not sure with like the Velvet Sundown, which we talked about a few months ago. But the funny thing about it is Breaking Rust, as Rick Beato points out, it got to number one on country downloads.
Yeah.
But hardly any downloads are sold. So Rick Beato speculates that, and downloads are $1 each. And so Rick Beato basically speculates that whoever, did this thing just bought 3,000 downloads of their own music for $3,000, which I can tell you, $3,000 is what if you want to get played on the radio, and I'm talking about just like a small radio promo, like you do in jazz, I think mine was $2,400, and that was a few years ago. So probably 3,000 now, and that's just to get on like small stations, not the big, Clear Channel or whoever owns all those things.
Right.
So $3,000 to get the number one spot in the charts and to get talked about on Rick Beato, and then have boneheads like you and me go listen to it. That's pretty good promo, but it's all fake, and all this stuff is just fake garbage. I mean, I will say this: there's probably a few genuine artists who are people who are artists or who have artistic intent that don't play an instrument but have musical. Like say Rick Rubin, right? Who have some musical sense and are basically being producers, but not working with a band. And maybe they're, some people write lyrics and then have AI music generated for it. And so there's not any, this is not, black and white. There's a lot of gray in here. And certainly people have been using drum machines and MIDI program, like we were talking about, for pop music for a long time. And, is a Taylor Swift tune that's written by 10 different people on which no actual instruments may have been played, which is comped from 10 or 20 vocal runs, right?
Yeah.
Is that somehow more laudable than AI-generated music? And I don't know. My big problem with it as an audiophile is that the record industry and the streaming services, which are hand in hand, in some cases record companies own part of the streaming service. They seem like so many other businesses. They seem to be bound and determined to deliver the highest profits with not even the slightest concern for consumer satisfaction. And so this makes it more I'll just be a shill for the audio industry here. This makes it more important that you have a CD player or a turntable or something that allows you to play legacy media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although legacy media is still, what gets most of the spins, I think, at least for a while, but maybe they'll somehow vitiate that. I think,
Yeah.
catalog, old stuff is 90 something percent of streaming.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, and I think that's largely, I mean, yeah, we were talking earlier about the stuff that makes pop music, even before the advent of AI, very AI-like. As you have pointed out before, given that I play a synthesizer and I rely on samples, I don't have as much of an issue with that as I think you do. I'm like fine with samples, but like for me, it's like there's still a human element. There's still
yeah,
you're playing an instrument, you're deciding things, you're making choices, whatever. My biggest problem is that so much of it is just homogenized, template driven, predictable. There's very little pop music. Well, there's very little mainstream top 40 pop music these days that has the ability to surprise me at all.
yeah,
You know, AI cannot innovate because it is drawing on patterns that it has found in what has been created before. I mean,
right.
so much of artistic development is theft, sure, yes, but it is intentional theft, and it is theft with the idea that you're going to take it and move it forward. And AI can't do that. And I don't think pop music has been doing that for a long time. I think it has been designed just to keep us not touching the controls. They don't want to engage you too much, because if you're engaged
Right.
too much to the point to where you might like it or hate it, well, there's the chance you're going to hate it. That means you're going to skip it. That means you're interacting with their service. That means you're not just streaming and accepting what you get, right? They're shooting for that middle ground where you're not going to love this, but you're not going to hate it either. And I think that what has led us to the place where people can't tell the difference between human music and AI music anymore, because for the longest time, they've taken any creative spark out of it because they didn't want to shake you out of your stupor. Is that too tinfoil hat for you?
No, it's okay. I mean, I agree. I mean, one thing I do want to say though is that like Deezer says they remove 100% of AI generated tracks from algorithmic recommendations and excludes them from editorial playlists. So that minimizes their impact on the royalty pool, so that those things don't get played, except they are getting played, So I don't know, but I do know this. I look at. I mean, I have Qobuz, and I look at my recommendations on Qobuz, and there's all kinds of stuff on here, and none of it looks AI generated. It looks.
Right.
There's an album from a band called Tortoise that I checked out, which I'd never heard of before. It's okay. There's an album from a band called Nusantara Beat, which was really cool. There's a Fire of God's Love by some nun, Sister Irene O'Connor. And that was an adventurous listen. Not a pleasant one, but adventurous. There's the new Cheap Trick album's in here. So it's like, it makes a lot of recommendations for me. What?
You're burying the lead, buddy. There's a new Cheap Trick album.
There's a new Cheap Trick album. Check it out. It's different. I mean, it's
okay.
There's elements of Cheap Trick in it. It's kind of a little more straight ahead, but whatever. Okay. There's a Kenny Barron album in here. There's all kinds of stuff in here. So it's like, if I want to click on stuff, I can find all sorts of things that are not AI. And so streaming, at least from that standpoint, still is relevant. But, I'm on a little streaming service, Qobuz, that knows that it's not catering to schmucks who are going to like AI music.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they get, here's the thing is all of these, when you put your music on the internet, you go through a digital distributor like CD Baby, right? Or DistroKid, and you give it to them, and they just put it on all the streaming services. So all the streaming services are getting this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which that's a lot of server space for. I guess I don't know if they actually store it locally or if they stream it from the distributor. That's a good question, but
yeah.
Anyway, I am still enjoying my streaming. However, I just really think Qobuz will will do their absolute best to not make this a bad consumer experience. But Spotify, they couldn't care less. They're
Oh, no.
they're just like hotels in Las Vegas or something. They're just trying to bilk the customer for everything possible and keep the absolute minimum quality of the experience while getting the absolute most money.
They don't have a choice, man. I mean, the shareholders are screaming for it. Shareholders think that AI is the future because AI eliminates the tax of labor, as they refer to it. So what choice, when the investors are screaming for Spotify to, use AI, Spotify has to say yes.
Yeah, I guess so.
So I'm not defending Spotify. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying
No.
there's they could not make the ethical choice in this case because they're publicly traded.
Yeah, but I just worry that music streaming is just going to get worse and worse since it is owned by big companies, whereas as physical media distribution, at least as it exists now. I mean, yeah, big record companies put out, Universal puts out physical media, but certainly vinyl and all that kind of thing. But that's a much smaller business, and it's not attracting the attention of people that are looking for some new industry to suck money out of.
Yeah.
And then, of course, so much of that business is used. Probably, I would just guess 80 or 90% of the physical media business is used media at this point.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my local record shop is regularly on weekends having live concerts, man, just like out in the courtyard in front of the shop, right next to Joseph A. Bank.
Yeah.
Great little shoegaze band played last weekend. And it's, just three kids in their late teens or early 20s with their, beat up Stratocasters and a little drum kit, just playing really good music. And I mean, maybe I'll never hear from them again, but it was a great way to spend $5, and it was a great way to engage with real music.
Wait, was that the Psych Beach Gaze rock band?
I can't remember, but it might have been. It was in Village Green. Yeah.
I want to see them because, I like all kinds of beach gaze rock, but Psych Beach Gaze rock is the best. That's the one that really pushes me over the edge.
Oh, you're getting more and more ridiculous in your old age.
But yeah, I was going to say though, I just worry that we're going to get to a point where like live music is the only music that you can trust.
Yeah, Bethany was pointing, my wife, sorry for those of you who don't know who Bethany is, but my wife was pointing that out last night. She's like, we're basically going to return to like medieval times with regard to music, where when you hear music, it's going to be people sitting around in a circle with instruments. And like, you want to hear good music, you got to know somebody who plays an instrument,
Yeah.
Because she's like, at some point, what's going to be the point of subscribing to a service where like, it's just like, well, that's fine, whatever, it's just noise. So I thought it was a really interesting observation, and she might be right.
Yeah. Although, of course, the live music industry, the live music quote unquote industry that I participate in is a bunch of little local bars and coffee houses and stuff like that have live music, right?
Yeah.
But the live music industry we all think about is, Taylor Swift or Beyonce or somebody like that going out on tour with some colossal production, and you pay $300, $400 for a seat.
Yeah.
And or more. And God, Rush is back on tour with a new drummer. And I looked at the seats in Seattle, and like good floor seats were $1,000.
Yeah.
And that's it used to be about you go see a band and they play music, but now it's mostly a big production. It's, you're watching the people on TV screens, and the whole thing is really geared up to give people this massive dopamine hit that's maybe worth $300 to them.
Maybe. I'd rather just go see Lyle Lovett again, man. I'm going to pay like, 40 something bucks, and he might be with the large band. He might not, but it's going to be one of the best concerts I've ever seen, even though I've already seen him like 27 times. So,
yeah, I went to see, there's a great theater here in the Seattle area, the Kirkland Performance Center. And I think it's 400 seats, 300 seats, something like that. And I saw the Fabulous Thunderbirds there on Friday night. And I had not seen them. The last time I saw them was 40 years ago in Houston with the original members.
Wow.
And so they only have one original member left, Kim Wilson, the singer and harmonica player, I got to say, this was 10 times better of a show than and the one they did than the original band, I thought. And
Wow.
we paid $50-$60 for the seats, and we were like 8 rows back.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. I mean, there's not a bad seat in that whole theater. I mean, I've sat literally in the far back row, at the furthest away you could get from the stage, and it was still great. And so, to me, to go to these big, basketball arenas or something, and pay to watch people on TV, and be just packed in with a bunch of other people doing whatever they do at these concerts, I will just pass. That is a dopamine infusion industry. It's not a music industry anymore. It's no different from a recreational drug industry, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that should be good for you.
Well, I'm going to let that pass without comment, buddy. I think we've said about as much about this topic as I want to say. You want to take a break and get some water and come back and talk to our buddy Geoff Morrison?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back, y'all. We're back. This is Audio
Unleashed.
Nice.
Who was that?
It wasn't me.
It was long-time listener, first-time caller.
No, wait. You were like one of our first guests, weren't you? Or were you?
No, I think that was on the old podcast.
Oh, that's right. That's
okay.
when it was SoundStage.
Anyway.
Welcome to Audio Unleashed, pal.
Thank you.
It's Geoff Morrison. Geoff Morrison is who we have on.
Yeah.
Who did the Unleashed, and who now will unleash his passion and fury about aftermarket ear tips for earbuds.
I'm sure everyone is super curious.
I got a bone to pick with you right off the bat, Geoff, because I'm the one that sent the email about these stupid Mistral things, and Brent gets credit for it in your story, so my feelings are hurt.
Wait, that wasn't from Brent?
No, that was from me. I'm pretty sure.
I sent you. I said, hey, write about these.
Oh,
and
okay.
Maybe you sent it to Brent and then Brent sent it to me.
No. I got it because I'm on their email list, so I know I got it.
Okay.
Anyway, so I basically commanded Geoff to write about these, knowing that he would, and knowing it was a good topic, and knowing he does a column every month, so he's probably slightly desperate for topics sometimes.
Okay, what the heck are these things though? We're talking about mithril. We're talking about what are we talking about here?
Well, specifically for this one, it was 2 different aftermarket ear tips. One from a company called Flare, and the other one from a company that has many names, but I think it's mostly Asla. And that's just what they sound like. They are aftermarket ear tips. So you take the cheap silicone or foam ones that came with your earbuds and you put these on instead. And as we'll talk about, in and of itself, that's not a bad thing. There are plenty of companies that do this.
Yeah.
But in this case, both of these companies were making some creative marketing claims with their products.
Yeah. Now, I tend to buy Comply foam tips when I get aftermarket tips because I like the memory foam. I like the way they squish in my ear. I like the way they stay in. And the silicone doesn't work so well for me. But these are not memory foam. These are describe them. It's paint a word picture for us here because there's silicone involved. But what else is there?
Yeah, and I'd like to agree. I also have bought Comply chips, and those are great. Okay, so the flare ones are they're both kind of slightly different. So the flare ones are black silicone. They kind of look like every other ear tip you've probably ever seen. But the inside, instead of having a straight tube, actually kind of how the name suggests, they're kind of flared. They have a shape to them that is almost like a megaphone, essentially. And the other ones, the mithril, are a different type of silicone. They're kind of a softer, more like what you'd get from like tubing kind of thing, like a silicone tubing. But the inside of those is stainless steel. So the part that connects to the actual earbud is still silicone, but then from there, it's this stainless steel core, and then that goes out to your ears. So, from a science standpoint, both of these have the potential of changing the sound. So that part I wanted to be clear about up front is that, yes, there's a change to the shape of, where the sound is created to the inner part of your ear. And so just like if I'm going to cut my hands over my mouth, you can change that sound. The problem was that the marketing of both of these companies, they're kind of making it seem like, oh, this will improve the sound, when that's not necessarily the case.
Well, right there, Flare on the package, it says, unlock the magic in your earphones.
Yeah, exactly. Flare also describes it as unlock new clarity in your favorite earphones with Flare Magic Tips, delivering uncompromised and immersive audio for comfortable all-day listening. Simply swap your regular tips for Magic Tips and press play.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, what got this all started was, we all three of us love that kind of marketing. So it was worth testing. And Brent certainly offered very kindly to measure them, because there's one thing kind of doing some subjective listening, but then like objectively, well, what are these things actually doing? So he listened to them. I listened to them. He measured them. I looked at the measurements. So, equal on both sides, obviously. And so anyway, what we found, if we want to skip to that part, or Brent, did you want to chime in here with any
there's
thoughts?
There's a thing is, the magic tip, and this is what upset me a little bit, is it says it removes high frequency resonances inside the tip. If you know anything about acoustics, so that locks out half of high-end audio manufacturers and 4/5 of high-end audio reviewers. You're talking about a quarter. It's a high-frequency resonance, supposedly, but that's like a quarter inch, right? And it's a quarter inch tube that basically you're attaching to your earphones. And like, if you look at the wavelength that's a quarter inch, it's like 50 something thousand hertz, right? And you can easily calculate this because the speed of sound is well established. And and then if you divide it by 4, so what I do is I look at whatever the wavelength of sound in question is, right? And then I divide that by 4. And that's like, that frequency is the one that would be the lowest frequency affected. And it's something like 13 point something kilohertz. And that's pretty high up there. That's pretty high up there to be worried about resonances. And
I could barely hear that. Barely.
Yeah.
That is the extreme limits of my hearing acuity. So
I can't hear it. And by the way, show me if you have these resonances. Well, measurements can reveal that 100% every single time. Measurements can reveal that. So show me, how did you figure that out? How did you figure out something that no one's figured out in the 25 years or something that we've had in-ear monitors with silicone tips? So, show us, actually, if you're saying there's resonances, show them to us. They absolutely can be measured, absolutely, positively, every single time. So go ahead, Jeff. Sorry, I have to rant once in a while. So it's my job. So I get paid.
Hey man, I listen to every episode. I know all about the rants.
Sick them.
All right, go ahead.
I do want to back up 1 second, because I think an important aspect of this is the price. So with the mithrils, which is the stainless steel core ones, I paid $40 for those. And that came with, that came with 3 sizes. They're not like the small isn't really that small and the large isn't really that large, but okay, at least it's 3 sizes for $40. The flares, I paid nearly $90 for 3 pairs. So each pair is basically $30 for silicone ear tips.
Yeah.
If that sounds outrageous and you haven't purchased aftermarket ear tips before, it is outrageous. That is an absolute insane price for silicone ear tips. Like these should be $1 for like a pack of 10, if that. I'm not sure how much the Comply foam ones are, but even those aren't going to be anywhere close to these prices.
Yeah.
So those 2 things are certainly audio unleashed fodder. Oh wait, I didn't do the thing. That's certainly very audio
unleashed
fodder because it's overpriced. They're making these ridiculous claims, with no scientific backing or proof.
So what did you hear?
Worthy of an article.
But Jeff, measurements are one thing, but what did you hear?
Yeah. I mean, of course, all measurements are meaningless because that's, you can't measure how you hear things. That's insane. But in this case, we heard exactly kind of what the measurements were showing. So they do definitely change the sound a little. I most noticed it with the frequencies around like snare drums. And that obviously that's partially kind of the music that I was listening to test, but that's where it was most noticed. Like the snare drum was a little louder in certain tracks compared to the stock tips. And I kind of tested this in a couple different ways. So I used a couple different earbuds. I tested like on and off, but obviously that's a slow process and, your audio memory isn't that quick. So I tried it with like one earbud had one tip and the other earbud had the aftermarket tip and kind of swapped that out. But it was fairly consistent. I mean, I could definitely hear that difference, but it was subtle and I would argue not better. One of the earbuds, I think it actually made it worse. The Mies Audio Albas, which are these wonderful little inexpensive earbuds. They just sounded worse. Like I gave them a reviewer's choice award at SoundStage, and if they had sounded like this with these tips, either of them, I probably wouldn't have given it an award because it was like just that little bit worse. I'm like, these kind of a little more mundane than they were with the stock tips. So like you've taken something special, you've claiming it's making this huge improvement, and it's actually just changing it not for the better.
Yeah.
So thanks for spending $30.
Less than the cost of Skull Candy True Wireless earphones.
Oh yeah, I've reviewed stuff for SoundStage, both true wireless and wired for less than $30. For an entire like earbud or headphone or whatever. Like these are ridiculous prices. Like yes, it's $30. It's not that much money, but yeah.
Now to be fair, I will say there's factories in China that bang out silicone earbuds, by the billions for, nothing. And, the cost of these things, the first one of any molding costs you $100,000 or something, right? And the second one basically costs you nothing, right? Because once the mold's made, that's the cost. So they are doing something different. And they are putting, instead of just a standard silicone tip, they are putting a piece of plastic in there or a piece of metal. Although,
there is something going on. Yes. Yeah,
there is something going on. So they can't just go like, if we wanted to have, Audio Unleashed branded ear tips, and probably
marketing opportunity,
we would just go to, Shenzhen and go to some factories around there and go like, oh yes, these tips will be fine. Give us the minimum order is 10,000 or whatever, and we'll take those, and that would be that. But with this, they had to go in and they had to manufacture them, and they had to have them specifically manufactured. They had to find somebody to manufacture them because a lot of people would not want to bother. However, I have the tips I use, since my ear canals are really big. I use spin fit tips. I think they're called XL 100s or something, and they're really big, and they're just silicone tips, and they have a plastic insert in there as well. It's like a different color than the sort of translucent silicone. And I think I get those for like $10 for a pack of 3.
Okay.
3 pairs.
Yeah.
So it ain't that big of a difference,
And it's also, I will, to steelman, I guess, in a way, these do change the sound. So they're not doing nothing.
Yeah.
And it's a little hard to market, something that's like, hey, we're going to change the sound of your earbuds. Okay. And, that's not, there's no marketing opportunity there. So unfortunately, they've gone that next step in making these wilder claims. And then they're still very expensive for something that's not kind of doing what they're saying it's doing, at least not in the way they're saying it.
Yeah. Well, they're claiming they're making it better, but really they're just making it different. And that's a marked contrast to much of what we cover here on Audio Unleashed.
I didn't know if it was my turn or not. So you got to let us know. Is it me or Jeff?
Stereo.
Yeah, we got to.
And so, but it's very different from what we usually cover, because what we usually cover is stuff that says that it makes this giant difference in your system, that improves your system, but actually doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got stuff plugged into my wall outlets all over my house, and it makes the audio better in my headphones, obviously. I mean, actually, last time I was staying with you, Brent, I left stuff in the outlets at your house to make my audio better at my house. Works great.
Oh, man. Tell me where it is so I don't pull it out. I don't want to ruin your sound.
I've got some gummies in my fridge that make the sound really much better.
I have no doubt of that.
That actually works.
So anyway, is it possible, though, that these could improve some earphones?
I mean, yeah, that's the kind of the other side of it is, we were listening on some fairly accurate and decent sounding earbuds.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned the Mies Audios. The other ones that you were using were the JBL Endurance Run 2s, which I bought just to have, so we could have, use the same headphones or the same earbuds for the comparison. But if you had earbuds that kind of were worse in the frequency ranges that these augment, and had a dip there, say, then theoretically this could balance that out or kind of improve, in quotes, the sound in that, let's say, 2K to 4K range.
Yeah.
So theoretically, yes, but you'd kind of have to know that your specific earbuds don't sound good in that frequency range, and just that frequency range, really. And then these might change it for the better. So absolutely, that is fair to say, but that's a lot of ifs in there.
So if you had some really crappy, dull-sounding earphones, of which really there aren't that many dull-sounding ones nowadays. I've heard a lot of bright-sounding ones. But not a lot of dull-sounding ones. So if you have, I would just take a wild guess and say maybe some Skull Candies, because they go for that bass-heavy sound. Yeah. And it's possible this might make some of those sound better, but why are you buying those in the first place then?
And do you really want to spend $30 to improve the sound of inexpensive earbuds anyway, when you could get some decent new pair of wired or even wireless earbuds for that or slightly more? I'm always hesitant to recommend people spend a lot of money, but it's kind of the sunk cost fallacy. It's like if you bought $30 earbuds and you don't like them, spending another $30 to try to fix them, maybe that's good money after bad. Like, that's not a good choice.
Jeff, did you ever read the Discworld novels by Terry Pratchett?
The first two.
Yeah, later on there's a captain of the guard, Sam Vines, and he's got the Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness.
Oh, brilliant! Absolutely, brilliant. I know what you mean. Yeah,
talks about the fact that rich people can afford to save money on boots, basically, because they spend $100 on boots and it lasts in their life, whereas poor people spend like $10 on boots and they're worn out after 5 years. So the poor person over the course of their life is going to spend way more money on boots than the rich person, and this is kind of that with headphones. Like, you're going to spend way more money trying to fix the sound of your headphones than you would just buying decent headphones, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the man's a genius. Not the boot guy. Well, I guess him too, but specifically Terry Pratchett. But yeah, I mean, that is the best description of the poor tax I think that's ever been written. It's just so simple and it's so easy to understand. And it absolutely is the case that it's like, if you have to buy the cheap thing and it always breaks and you have to keep buying the cheap thing, well, that's a tax, yet you can't afford the better thing. And it's once you kind of see that, it's like you start seeing it everywhere. It's like, well, why do you keep that old car? I can't afford a new one. Wasn't it expensive to repair all the time? Yes, but what am I supposed to do? Yeah.
Well, in this case, headphones aren't exactly a necessity, but still, I mean, it's the same principle. It's you're going to spend massive amounts of money on these how long are these things going to last? I mean, you haven't had them long enough to test it, I guess. They haven't worn out, For me, Comply tips last 3 months or something like that because of my acidic skin. But they're worth, for me, no Apple AirPods are ever going to come with those. So it's whatever headphones I get, I'm going to have to buy these things. But in this case, it's just the claim is it's going to improve your sound. Again, just buy better headphones, man.
Yeah. And I will say the Mithrils anyway, which has the clear silicone exterior, they do feel really nice. When you put them in, that's a very soft silicone. It's very comfortable. It's more comfortable and softer and smoother than some cheap earbud tips that I've used. So that's not a bad thing. But that same company makes cheaper silicone ear tips that are not, that don't have a core of stainless steel adding to the price.
Yeah.
So you probably just get one of those instead, or some other ear tip if you don't like the ones that or more likely, it's not that you didn't like the ones that your earbuds came with, but that you've lost them, they've popped off, they've worn out or whatever. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Although I recently also wrote another column for SoundStage about how wireless earbuds have a half-life. And it's not very long. And I recently, in a recent trip, 1 week into a 2-month trip, my beloved Sony XM4 true wireless earbuds, the battery started going. And so I'd be able to get, at the start of the trip, I was getting maybe an hour of playtime. And by the end of the trip, it was 15 minutes of playtime.
Wow.
And what do? You can't replace the batteries in these things. I mean, you technically can, I guess, but that's not what people are doing. So are you really wanting to spend all this money on ear tips for something that's you're probably going to have to replace in another year or two anyway, because true wireless earbuds aren't made to last.
Yeah.
None of them.
Yeah. Well, I would guess though there's a lot of people that have, $300, $400, $1,000 maybe earbuds of some sort that are going to buy these tips just because, the whole audiophile thing of you get something that's really great, but then you kind of get a little dissatisfied with it and you want to try something different. And you can blow $30 on this, and God knows, $30 is a little impulse fun buy is, kind of nothing in the realm of high end audio. So the people that already have $1,000 Meze or whatever, I can't remember the brands anymore since I don't review these things anymore. But they have some of these high end brands might want to do this just to change things up a little bit. And I can see some value in that, I guess, because God knows guys buy, they have a, $50,000 system maybe, and maybe they buy some new cables to try to liven it up or just to make it sound different. And those probably don't have any appreciable effect, whereas this will change the sound. So, I mean, I can see some little value in it, but not a lot. I mean, it's just it's more of a consumerist thing. It's definitely a consumerist thing rather than a music thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I try to keep that in mind too. You're writing, you guys know this too. You write for as broad an audience as possible for most websites. Yeah. And so for some people, they're going to look at this $30 and be like, I can't afford $30 on something like that. And then other people don't even see the number of these things. So yeah, I get it. It's is $30 a lot of money or is it not a lot of money? I don't know. It depends, obviously, on your point of view.
Yeah.
Well, in terms
find
of
that many
value
things are only
delivered,
true from a certain point of view.
in terms of value delivered, I think you gave it a 3 rating for value or something like that.
Yeah, something like
which
that.
I thought was probably appropriate.
Yeah.
I mean, again, somebody might like this. Somebody might try these.
I think you sent me this idea, kind of potentially hoping for a Morrison special of tearing something apart, which I've done before for stuff that you've sent me and had a great time. And that's kind of why it's a little more nuanced and a little less dunking, because at the end I felt the same way, where it's like they're not doing nothing. It's not a magical product that's trying to whatever. It's just like, okay, they've overmarketed something and they've overcharged for it, but it's not nonsense. Borderline nonsense, but it's not total nonsense.
I guess so.
You know what? I'm going to die on this hill, y'all. I'm absolutely sure I'm the one that sent this to you, Jeff. We're going to have to stop this recording so I can go search my inbox.
All right. I'm clicking over right now. Right,
oh, wow. Are we going to test
Dennis,
this theory in real time?
In real time. You can hear my clicky mouse in the background.
My email was more memorable than his.
God. Well, aren't they always?
Well, often.
That's one.
I mean, just because, they're all snarky.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Guess what? What? We're all right.
Oh.
We are all correct. Guess
How
what?
are we all right?
You both sent me an email about these. So Brent sent one that said, hey, write about these, which is what I mentioned. That's on the 17th. He just sent it to me. This was September 17th. And we had a whole conversation about it. But you, Dennis, sent one on the 30th.
Oh.
And this is where, and I remember, I almost mentioned this in the article. You had mentioned, these days, if a corporation steals a noun from Tolkien's Legendarium for a product name, I just automatically assume the corporation more is evil than the baseline, which I was thinking about every time I was writing this. And I thought it was about a different product that we had mentioned this about, kind of, well, like Palantir. But in this case, it's specifically these ear tips, which you sent to the three of us. So you're both right.
I love it.
And we're all correct, which is the best kind of correct, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And as usual, I'm just following after Brent. Oh, man. All right.
I mean, it was only 2 weeks later. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Wait, maybe we have a new Audio Unleashed rule here. All products named after or companies named after something in Lord of the Rings are bad.
I mean, look, the track record is pretty consistent. Come on,
true.
Palantir, Anduril, like you name some stuff after Tolkien for whatever reason, you're probably up to no goods.
Which is such a bummer because, it's Tolkien. Like, I get it when there was a whole wave of people naming things after stuff from Ayn Rand, the worst writer in history. And it's like, you could clock that in and oh, well, you're just an idiot. Like, that's obviously not going to be any good anything. But Tolkien, man, why did bad people have to ruin everything?
Well, they're kind of, hey, look, I mean, if it was Robert Plant talking about Tolkien, that was one thing.
That's fine.
But and that they're trying to borrow some of that cool, I think, whereas these people are not cool.
No. Desperately not cool.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I think we've said about as much about these ear tips as we're going to say. Jeff, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. We're going to have you back sometime soon.
This was a delightful pleasure. I can't wait for the Patreon segment where I tell you guys all the things that you got wrong for the last 2 years. No, just kidding. I would never.
Yeah, we get that a lot.
Let me just say, the Eagles are great and you guys are wrong.
All right, that's it. There's no more podcasts.
Wow.
Cut to tape.
And we're back. This is Audio
Unleashed.
And we are going to talk about one of my heroes, Davey 504, who's this bass player on the internet. And he's been doing this for years. And he's really, I mean, he's actually a pretty cool bass player, but he's also an online personality and a comedian. I don't want to say he's an influencer because I don't think he's actually influencing anybody to do anything other than play bass more, which is good.
That's influential, though, man. He is he's really good, really, really entertaining. I love Davey 504, and I'm not even a bass player.
Yeah, and I've been watching him for years because I am a bass player, but also because he's just hilarious. But also, the reason I wanted to talk about this on Audio
Unleashed
is that I'm looking at his quote-unquote methodology, and this is a guy who's half comedian, half bass player, right? But his methodology is better than most of the audio reviewers in that he actually has a methodology as opposed to sitting down and, just listening to something and not having any comparison standards or anything like that, not having any controls. So this guy, there's all these, if you're a guitar player or a bass player, I don't play with a pick usually, but a little bit once in a while, never on bass, on guitar. And so he buys, there's all these expensive guitar picks you can buy that are up to, probably $50 a piece, I think, that are made out of exotic materials or who knows what, or have these kind of weird shapes that supposedly will make your 6-string guitar sound like a 12-string or blah, blah, something or another. And I've kind of always wondered about these, but he actually tested all of them. And, he starts with, he actually made a pick out of ice, which I thought was hilarious. He made like a little,
if you will.
Yeah, an ice pick. He made a mold out of a regular pick and some tape and put it in the freezer. Made pick out of ice, which didn't work too well. But then he goes to a bunch of other picks. And, he plays the same thing on all of them. And he's a good bass player. So he plays everything the same every time. And so he goes from like these cheap picks up to really expensive, $40-something picks. And you can hear it and you kind of like, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe that one sounded a little bit different. But then at the end, he runs them all for you in quick succession. And you can start to realize he basically kind of calls the whole industry a scam. And I think only one of the picks had an identifiably different sound, and it was worse.
Bad, yeah.
Although it had light up LEDs inside, so
yeah.
So at least there's that possible reason you'd want to use it. But it's kind of like he just goes through all this stuff and shows you, like, this doesn't really make a big difference, and all these people making all these claims about, superior sound quality or making your 6-string sound like a 12-string and all this kind of stuff. It's basically just a bunch of BS. And I really loved that he just, in his own humorous way, he basically just came right out and showed that. And it reminded me of the Jim Lil videos, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
Where, he goes in and tries a whole bunch of microphones and does them in a pretty scientifically consistent, repeatable, fair way. And he shows you it all. And, you can go buy microphones for everything from, $19 up to, oh God, I was looking at some AKG that's out there now that's like $40,000.
Whoa!
For the vintage, because I saw it mentioned in Tape Op, like some AKG stereo tube mic, and it's a vintage mic, and it's like 40. I was like, some guy was talking about how he uses it. I'm like, oh, I kind of need a stereo mic. Let me see what that thing costs. Yeah, the cheapest ones were like $19,000, and so you can buy all these. You can spend whatever money you want on a mic, but then when you actually listen to the differences among these microphones in Jim's video, because he gets some really expensive ones in there too, it's pretty small. And, that's what this sort of fearless coverage is, something I really wish we had more of in audio. And we do have some of that. We have certainly, Amir on Audio Science Forum
Audio Science
is
Review.
Audio Science Review, sorry. It's kind of like that. I mean, he doesn't have any advertising, does he? And he's
I don't
also
know.
an ex-Microsoft guy, so he's loaded. But he doesn't try to soft pedal anything.
Right.
And like Aaron Hardison, who's out there, who's got his
Mm.
clipple and everything, and
Heck yeah.
basically doing a real good technical breakdown of speakers, doesn't have any real financial interest in this, and other than trying to make some money on his channel.
Right.
But he doesn't cater to if a speaker's not good, he says it's not good, or even if he just thinks it's not good, if it's maybe not too bad, but he's kind of like, nah, I wouldn't buy this. But you see that so little in audio coverage. And
Mhm.
I was watching this video. I'm like, God, if I do anything after I retire in audio, I want to do something like this.
Yeah.
Now, we have seen, as you may remember, friend of the pod, Michael Fremer,
Mm.
actually
Mm.
kind of is a personal friend of mine. I've known him like 30 years, but we don't see a lot eye to eye in audio. But he'll do recordings of these. He did one of the Wilson Benesh $300,000 turntable and then posted it on YouTube. And supposedly it was, it silenced the naysayers. And even through YouTube's, YouTube uses, I can never remember what YouTube uses, but it's running at like 256.
Depends on the video resolution, but like if you're at 1080p, I think it's 320 AAC.
Okay, yeah. So, it's like, wait, through all this compression, which you've told us is horrible, by the way, all the high-end guys are like, oh, compression's terrible, you should have uncompressed. Okay, but through all this compression, you can supposedly hear the subtleties and the stunning musicality of this $300,000 turntable. But, and we've seen a lot of guys do, who was that guy? That Olaf guy or something? You remember him? Guy from Germany?
Oh, yeah.
Who was doing headphone comparisons by putting them on like one of those mini DSP ears things that has like two fake rubber ears and a couple of uncalibrated mics. And wait, are they calibrated? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. You can't externally calibrate them. And he's playing headphones through that, and supposedly you're supposed to listen through your headphones, so the headphones are going. But so it's a bogus comparison. But the more I watch this Davey 504 thing, it's like my goal as a YouTube guy would be to do audio product versions of this. Basically, I mean, of course, he could go buy these picks for even the most expensive one was $45, except for the one that he
the one that he had cast of gold, that was I think he paid what, $600 for that one,
which he's giving away in some kind of a raffle or something like that. But this is the kind of thing, just like Jeff buying those ear tips. You could buy those, and sometimes it's easier just to buy stuff than deal with the PR people and the manufacturers, because then they know you're doing it. If you buy it, you can just do whatever you want. Deal with them later if they bother. But there's so many of these things that really don't make a difference, and there's so much of this, as you would put it, this late stage capitalism stuff, where they're just cranking out, Me Too products at best in so many cases.
Yeah.
Like preamps and amplifiers are kind of Me Too beyond a certain point. And, making claims about their, impeccable musicality or whatever. But, and then, also the products that just don't work, that just don't really do anything.
Yeah.
And actually recording some of these things and saying like, okay, here's what it sounds like with these, what are those synergistic things that are like a half an inch in diameter?
Oh God. Yeah. The little discs that you put on your wall.
Yeah, it's like a little. It's like the size of maybe 3 dimes, and then it has like a little cone in it. It's like a little horn. It's like a little teeny tiny horn speaker. That supposedly transforms your room's acoustics. And anyone with with a knowledge of physics or acoustics knows that no, not going to work.
I mean, isn't it supposed to be like effectively like a treble trap or something?
I think it creates more harmonics or something, supposedly, which maybe it does, but not at a frequency that, just like we were talking about with Jeff, where you have, you can figure out, what frequencies something will affect by its size, right?
Yeah.
And so, half an inch, that's going to be about, it might do something in the top octave of sound, but it's a little teeny tiny thing.
But
You'd
what
have to
would
have a
the
wall
signal
full of them.
be versus the noise? I mean, it's
Right.
Yeah. Come on, it's even if it did something in that frequency range, you're not going to hear it.
And if synergistic research wants to prove this, they can to prove these things work. They can do measurements. I would volunteer to do those measurements for nothing.
Or blind listening panels,
or blind listening panels, but not blind listening panels of your own stooges that work at the company. Get an outside person to do the blind listening panels. There you go.
Yeah.
Or do them yourself and actually just document what you did. And don't and say, hey, this was blind. We did it without. Here's what the results were, so someone else could replicate it. And just have something verifiable. That's the whole thing. Is like these pick companies. I mean, since Davey 504 has a giant, he has 13.5 million subscribers.
Golly.
Wow. Boy, he's raking it in. And and almost all of his videos are just him sitting there in a little room with his bass.
Yeah. See, the future's not all bad.
This guy's such a genius. But anyway, millions of people are watching this. This video has 707,000 views. So the elite pick industry, although he does say one of the more expensive ones, he said it was the most comfortable, even if it sounded the same. And certainly I am fussy about the picks I use, but not because of the way they sound, but because of the way they feel. I use like super ultra mega stiff. I use Jim Dunlop Jazz 3, and I only like the really flat, slick ones. So it makes a difference in terms of the comfort. Does it make a difference in terms of the sound of the recordings I do? No, not at all. I mean, it might make a difference. The fact that I'm more comfortable with it would make me play a little bit better, maybe. So I don't think he's saying like you shouldn't spend more on a pick necessarily. I think he's basically saying the claims that people make about these picks improving your sound or making your 6-string sound like a 12-string are bogus.
Yeah. And
just use whatever pick you're comfortable with. Even if it's cheap, it's not going to affect your sound.
Yeah.
So, I just love this so much though. And everyone should watch this. And I mean,
all the way to the
hilarious.
End. All the way to the end.
All the way to the end. Absolutely.
The thing that's great is he goes through with each of the picks and says, here's what it sounds like. And then he talks about the next pick and here's what it sounds like. And then at the end, he just clips the segments of him playing each. So you can hear them in rapid succession, no talking in between. And that's when it's like, okay, if I ever were under any delusions that I might have squinted my ears and heard a difference here, except for that one more expensive one that obviously sounded bad. I mean, it just disabused you of any notion right off the bat.
One other thing that shocked me was he takes a very dim view in his videos of non-bass instruments and also of bass players that play with a pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he did this and I'm like, he actually sounds almost the same with a pick as he does with his fingers, which is an accomplishment because he plays slap style.
That was the crazy thing for me when it was like, wait a minute, you sound like Davey 504, man.
It's like, how does he sound like he's slapping, but he's got a pick?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was really, I got to say, I mean, I think this guy's done some live performances and they were something of a disaster, so he's not,
he's not Thundercat,
He's not Thundercat. He's not, Geddy Lee, but, he's not Ron Carter, but he has his own niche and he's probably making more money than Ron Carter. I don't want to say more money than Geddy Lee. Well, no, Geddy Lee's charging $1,000 for floor seats, so I think probably not.
Geddy's doing all right. Yeah.
Yeah, and Rush probably still gets a lot of streams, so this is more money coming in, and I'm sure he's doing quite fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I would guess Davey 504 is probably making more money than Ron Carter, and he does not have to travel the world.
Yeah. Well,
so
speaking of raking in the big bucks, buddy, let's wrap this thing up so we can get to our patrons and get their $3. How about that?
Yeah, that's good. You got a good segment for that.
You want to do some credits?
I am.
You want to kick us off? Anything you got to contribute to the credits section?
This is a Butterburger production.
Awesome. I'm so proud of you.
And I think we'll use some canned AI music this time. No, we'll go to our back catalog.
There you go.
Our extensive back catalog, which is our real cash cow.
Yeah, there you go. I'm editing and mixing and mastering this one because it's my turn. So, if this one doesn't sound good, you know who to blame. That's me.
And thanks again to our buddy Geoff Morrison.
Absolutely. We should do this more. I really enjoy having a third person in the group.
We're gonna have some more guests on. I don't know who they're gonna be, but they're gonna be the big problem is having manufacturers come on and talk about their products is usually pretty dreary. So.
Yeah. Well, I still want to bring Paul Hells on just to shoot
I do
the crap,
too,
man. Just to talk because that dude's entertaining and awesome and intelligent, and we don't have to talk about his products.
No, we don't. But also, speaker guys are. Sorry, amp guys. Speaker guys are better because their products sound different, and
that's a good point.
They have a lot more to talk about, and they also that's a community, man. The good ones all know each other, and they talk a lot, and they share measurement techniques and things like that because it does make a difference, and. And they all have their own thing they do, but they're kind of like musicians in a way. They're kind of like, if you look at rock bands, rock bands all check out other rock bands,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So all these speaker guys kind of know what's going on with the other speaker people. So they're, I think, inherently more interesting to talk to.
Yeah.
There, I said it.
There you go, man. You're going to stand by it?
Stand by it. Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody, we appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. But patrons, stick around. We got one more for you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. If you liked what you heard and wish there'd been a little bit more of it, we got some good news for you.
Indeed, we do. If you check out patreon.com/Audio Unleashed, all one word, you can get new episodes a little earlier than everybody else.
And sometimes it's like a day or two early. Sometimes it's nearly a week. We never really know until we start editing.
But the big plus is that you get extended cuts of every episode. And usually that's going to mean a whole extra segment that's about maybe a geekier topic or something that's a little more personal to us or something that's just going to really appeal to the hardcore Audio Unleashed listener.
Yeah, what it boils down to is if you're somebody who would support Audio Unleashed on Patreon, we're going to make sure the bonuses to every episode are really aimed straight at your interests.
Yeah, and so if you want to hear these segments, you can subscribe to our Patreon for $3 a month, which is less than I spend every single day on my cup of coffee when I go to Starbucks to write my boring articles.
Yeah. One more time with that URL, that's patreon.com/Audio Unleashed.
Or Audio
Unleashed. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.